Hello, my name is Lise Colucci, and I am one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, where we help you to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. Hello and welcome. Before we get started, I just want to say if you enjoy live streams like this, or if you need the help, please don't forget to hit subscribe and like button, and we'll get going here. So today, let's talk about a topic that's a little bit difficult to talk about. Is my stream totally running weird, or is it working? Who's on here? Hi, Shannon. Is it all glitchy? It looks all glitchy to me. Does it look okay? I'm just going to keep going and hope it's okay. All right. I feel like this is a challenging topic to talk about because the very nature of covert narcissism is covert. It's not, it's a little glitchy. How weird. I don't know what to do. Just deal with it and keep going because, oh, did it work? It fixed. Okay, let's start over. Hello, Shastina and Shannon. Let's start over with that. That was weird. It was like lagging when it came on. Okay, so covert narcissism can be a challenge to talk about because the nature of being abused covertly is that you can almost not pinpoint the abuse. You can almost, where the narcissist manipulates so subtly that it's almost like believable to us on some level. It's almost believable when they deny the abuse. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it is so tricky to pinpoint where they're being abusive sometimes. And one thing I wanted to talk about today is how the covert narcissist blends the good with the bad, and how they use that to manipulate. Okay, and this is, I'm kind of winging it here, but have some notes, but I'm gonna try and talk about this. It's near and dear to my heart, I should say. This is the experience I lived through, and I may get a little tripped up talking about it just because it's really hard to talk about this. It's hard to express exactly what it is and why it's abusive. Sometimes you hear a story and you're like, well, yeah, that's not a big deal. But when you've lived it, you realize that is an absolute manipulation. The problem with what happens is they take often things that are positive and they will throw in something to manipulate it and flip it to a negative. Is that making sense? And what that does is it messes with your trust. It completely is a breach of trust. And it also messes with the way you feel about the way you trust yourself. I'm going to say hello to a few people. Hello, me, mine, and Shastina, and Nick, and Crystal, and Deborah, and Shannon. Okay, here we go. So, do you guys know what I'm talking about with this, with the way a covert narcissist will take something good and twist it to the bad? It's like they blend the good with the bad so seamlessly that you just go along with it and you fully believe what's happening. For example, here's an example. Well, let me say a little more and then I'll start giving some examples because you've experienced it also, Deborah. Crystal says, mine is covert. Yes, extremely difficult to explain to others. Ugh, that aloneness is so energy draining. It is. That alone is so energy draining, isn't it? And it's not even explaining it to others. You can almost not explain it to yourself. I mean, I'm a little tripped up on how to talk about it without concrete examples because it is so covert. I mean, it's so under the radar, right? Shannon says, I painted a 10,000 square foot home, took him there to show him, and his comment was, people have too much money. Yeah, right? Things like that. Yes. Oh, yes. You're not able to trust yourself. Definitely. Okay. So it's as if the good is intertwined with the bad, like there is veins. Like I just pictured, like, here's this good, and then there's veins of bad. There's veins of deception and manipulation woven through it and completely entwined with anything good. So one example I have is how they use your vulnerabilities to gain your trust and to create a world where you feel like they are your safe space and they're your partner. And then they take that same vulnerability and turn it around and use it against you. to me, that is one of the most malicious things you can do to someone emotionally. It's incredibly damaging. And it's even for people who have a lot of self-awareness and people who are like trying to work on their stuff in therapy, like maybe, so let's just take my example. Okay. My example is personally abandonment, huge issue. Okay. I'm not going to go into details and whatever, but it's big. Okay. It's a big, giant issue. And knowing this, choosing people who feel safe around that particular issue, or what I thought was safe at the time, or what seemed safe, or what basically he would play into the vulnerability of abandonment by making sure for the first few years I never felt abandoned, making sure that I was always told and shown that I meant something, and that that the person that he would be there, going out of his way to be there when he didn't have to, leaving notes of how much care and attention he gives. And you know what I'm saying? Like a form of love bombing that felt natural. It didn't feel like excessive. It just felt like someone who had compassion for the vulnerability. All right. And then what happens when there is any conflict whatsoever that is threatening this person's ego, really threatening to make them have to look at themselves, right? Which is part of conflict. We have to look at ourselves. But anyway, that's another topic. As soon as that happens, silent treatment comes on. What does the silent treatment do to someone with abandonment issues? It freaks them out. Okay. And then he just takes off, or threatens to leave. This goes on for years and years, right? Because what happens after that is when they come back from leaving, walking away, or the silent treatment, is somehow you're made to feel it's your fault. And you're the one apologizing for the fact that they did something completely in breach of trust of your vulnerability. It's really sick, and it's very disturbing. And does that make sense? That's one way that they mix all giving you all this good with the bad. Sorry, that was long, but let me read some of this. Silent treatment, withholding, compliments, always knowing without hearing that they think you're less than, trying to explain the detrimental impact of these tactics. It's impossible. You unless you felt it, right? And it's really hard to talk about why this is so damaging unless you've felt it. But y'all have, so you know what I'm talking about. Oh yes, calls, letter. Okay. Affectionate cards, professions of love for years. That's the thing, is it goes on. This isn't like months of something. This is something where you feel you've built up a relationship, you've built up a rapport, and you understand this person. And then there's a flip when the mask falls off. And the covert narcissist, I think a lot of them can keep that mask on a long time because they get a lot of feedback for a long time. And I don't know what it is and why it shifts, or if they just get bored, if they get tired of keeping the mask up, if something just triggers something in them that I don't know why, but it doesn't matter why. They shouldn't be doing this. So do you feel these type of people build you up in their own minds and then you disappoint? Yes, I feel this type of people build you up in their own mind. They idealize, because what they're doing is they're not looking at you. They're creating an illusion for themselves of what they want in their life. In other words, we all do it to a degree, right? You meet someone and you have all these expectations or these hopes for this person, and we don't look at the person. I mean, that's what we try to learn as survivors after, is to look at the person that's in front of us and see what's there, instead of, having these idealized thoughts, these fairy tale thinking. They basically have this fairy tale thinking, right? But it's a creation of their own ego. So it's how can this person serve me? Oh, look at all this good I'm getting. And they get as wrapped up in that love bombing as we do. Okay. They love it. They eat it up. It's supply. So yes. And then there's nowhere to go from there, because no human can live up to another person's ideal. So there's nowhere to go from there but down. I also think they can't hold the idealization phase for too long. I mean, it's only fun if something's new and shiny. Once you actually see who a person is, they're not new and shiny anymore. And the idealization phase is then over, right? All right. So Nick says, I used to compare her to an assassin that the government hires to destroy anything she came in contact with. Chaos, right? Mine wrote beautiful notes and cards, but life wasn't the way. I lived the fantasy of those words, not the reality. It's right. They are the best listeners in the beginning. To get your worst fear, to get at your worst fears. It's absolutely what I was talking about. What pains you and how they love to use that, as war against you later. They believe, it's Crystal saying they believe in the fantasy too for a while. So you're both believing in the fantasy. They do. I think some higher on the spectrum absolutely know what they're doing. I think many think this is just how love is. Many think this is normal. This is how you are. This is how you're supposed to be. I don't think a lot of some, yes, definitely will purposely go after people and prey on them. And others are so lacking in self-awareness that they think it's real, just like you do. And they're as enamored by the illusion as you are that they've created. They can't see what they're doing per se. Some can, absolutely, but some can't. So I've married a malignant narcissist. I never knew of NPD for 17 years. I'm sorry. Hello, Denise. Scary part is when you hit the narc's injury and they become violent. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Shannon says, I mentioned before that he came into my life when my brother died. I'm extra confused because he was seriously so nice this time to me until he just texted to end it. He was nice the whole time. He mentioned during that time about how bad our relationship was. Why did he come back in my life then? I don't get it. Oh, because they recycle. They recycle supply. They don't let go once they've had you. They always own you in their minds, right? It's part of the same illusion. They created you, therefore they own you, right? Okay, so other examples are if I can read my writing. Oh. So they might love and support you. This is kind of what you're talking about, Shannon. During times of crisis or during difficult times, they might show you everything you need, and then they'll turn on you, and they'll use it against you. They act like they are equal. Oh, this is an interesting one, okay? And especially in non-romantic relationships, maybe friend narcs or narcs at work. They may act like they are the same and equal and present like, hey, let's go to lunch. They pay half the time, you pay half the time, like as if you're the same, as if you're on equal playing field and and they do that to get into your life. And then they get in your life and you may even like have them over for dinner or whatever, like be friends. And they start prying for information like you're talking about there, like somebody mentioned. And eventually it'll come around to them using you. And usually it's, either financially or to knock you down in status. A lot of them will use your status, what they perceive as your status in when it's non-romantic to better their own too. So yeah, covert narcissism's not pretty. This is an interesting one. So during a devalue, a covert narcissist might devalue you, and you're just feeling terrible. And then they will flip it around as if the devaluing was of value. Does that make sense? It's a form of gaslighting, and I'm trying to think of an example for that one. It'll come to me. But does that make sense? Like it's subtle put downs over and over a topic, or maybe not even put downs, but just dissatisfaction being shown. And then they'll go around and like, maybe they're dissatisfied an entire dinner. I'm just going to make something up. They're just slightly dissatisfied about an entire meal. Nothing's right. Nothing's just, and then after the meal, they'll say, thank you so much. That was a lovely dinner. As if to say, you see what happens then when they do things like that is, number one, it's confusing. And it's gaslighting because they didn't have a lovely dinner. It's totally lying. Saying thank you is polite and all, but it's not. It's the actions that come before it or after it that make that thank you mean anything, right? And it's also, it gives them, you can't accuse them of anything. They said thank you. They said they did the right, polite thing, right? So they make it so that the abuse is hidden and buried inside of positivity, like saying thank you. Does that make sense? The abuse, I don't know why it's okay. They abuse you across the board and use flying monkeys to help their initiatives. They sure do. Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions? Keep adding them. And if I miss a question, you guys, please just ask it again. I'm not the best at following the chat and talking. I get sidetracked. All right. So yeah, thank you and praise, and then disregarding it or criticizing it. It's kind of the opposite of what I just said. But basically all of this it makes you feel confused and conflicted, doesn't it? It makes you so that you don't know if you're being abused or if it's you, because it's twisted around things that are, I need some examples here. You guys, give me some examples of what a covert narcissist does. Kind of in general, or more around like how they twist the truth. I feel like I'm just an isolated incident, like he never had a bad relationship before. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Okay, or he's on a dating site right away as he was discarding. Not even kidding. Okay. Yeah, it does hurt. It does hurt. And okay, so another thing that they might do is, well, let me think. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading and getting sidetracked. It is classed as discard. Is it classified as discard if they're doing it every couple weeks or so? Yes, it's a discard cycle. Is it Chanel? It's a discard cycle, a discard Hoover cycle. It's the same cycle as the love bomb and devalue cycle. It's just a little more extreme because they actually go away and come back. It's the same cycle. It's very potent and it keeps you trapped. So realize that you're in a cycle and that the only way out of that cycle is for you to shut the door and say no more. You gotta see them for what they are. This is the whole point. You cannot. Okay, so the covert narcissist, one thing they are really, really good at is getting people to protect them. And we don't want to see the truth of what they are because they set it up. So we're like always protecting their emotional states. Does that make sense? So we're always protecting them. And once you see who they are, that's when you can close that door and not go back to the Hoovers. Let's see. How can I expose the narcissist in court? You can only talk about actions. I wouldn't even, that's a whole nother topic, but I wouldn't go into name calling or labeling anything because number one, we can't diagnose someone. And number two, it's not really seen as much in the courts. Emotional abuse is not seen. So you write out the actions that you noticed. And that would be my approach. Hello, Violet. When they're talking about previous relationships, they were always the victim, unnoticed. Exactly. That's another point, is they play the victim. Always the victim. It's because they can't and won't look at the abuse that they cause. So to them, when people get mad at them at the end, yeah, we're always crazy and they are always the victim. That's the way it is. Always. That's how you know. If you to me, that's the biggest sign. If you tell a narcissist the things they do, just point blank with no concern for how they're going to react. Not and very honestly and fairly, and tell them exactly this hurt me and this is why. If you did that and they're going to deny it, they're going to call you crazy. I mean, that's what I talked about the other day. And then after that, they'll play the victim, or they'll smear you that you're crazy, one or the other. And that's, to me, that is just proof that everything that you said was 100% true, right? Narcula was love bombing while love bombing another. That's in Dana's group. Oh my gosh. Told me only because he was drunk. Yeah. Currently going no contact. Very good. Let's see. Poor me, poor me. Uh-huh. He still talks to his ex. He just didn't like how she was raising her kid. All right. So what do I have written down here? Let's see. Okay. Another thing is the covert narcissism allows the narcissist to maintain the illusion of being the good guy, right? A lot of them are very altruistic narcissists. In other words, they go out in the world and they're do-gooders, or they have a thing that they attach to and they go and like serve the world in certain ways. And yet they are completely toxic and abusive within their own interpersonal relationship. That kind tends to save the abuse for one person or very few that are close to them. And it's 100% self. It's only those who see it's only those who they're intimate and close with, and is what I'm saying, that get the abuse for that type of, usually for that type. And that's so difficult because the rest of the world sees them as this heroic, service-oriented good guy. And they can maintain the illusion of good guy by always twisting everything around something good. For instance, never yelling at you, but somehow making you feel devalued. And I know that someone can argue no one can make you feel anything, but if you've ever been devalued, I would argue that point. If you've ever been trauma bonded and devalued, and then you know that it's absolutely not true. Someone can affect how you feel emotionally about yourself over time. Okay, let's see. Humble, helpful, charming, so self-deprecating. That's right. And what does that do? It just creates, it solidifies that the mask that they're wearing is real, but it isn't. It's only a part. It's how they want to present to the world. We all want to present to the world the way we want to present to the world. But we don't go and flip things around and become completely toxic and completely against the thing that we're claiming we are, right? I have lost tremendously from the lies, blacklist, stalking, and smear campaigns. Yeah. He and his best friend talk 5 times a day. They're both talk shit about each other. Like high schoolers. It's a toxic web. Ugh. Yuck. Yeah. So what else about the coverts, guys, do you want to talk about? Anybody have any questions about covert narcissism, and especially as it pertains to how they manipulate shifting things that would be positive in a positive relationship into something negative by sneaking in the tendrils of toxicity, right? And super sneaky. That's right. They are. It is super sneaky. Okay. I think I'm. What am I at? Okay. I think I'll be on about 15 more minutes. So if anyone has anything they'd like to talk about, now's the time. He would act like everything was fine between us, but each time he left, it'd be a last minute thing. What do you mean? Like we never talked about our relationship ever. Okay, there's another good point. They're either hyper talking about the relationship or never talking about the relationship. But if you listen, they're never talking about anything. It's just words. If you listen to how a covert narc talks about a relationship, oh gosh, it is so hard to talk about because I can't give an example because I don't speak that way. You know what I mean? Like it's so, they talk around talking about a relationship. They make you feel like you're having a conversation about the relationship, but in fact, they're talking around talking about the relationship so that they don't actually have to talk about anything. And it just becomes a giant word salad and gaslighting within something that's supposed to be, bonding. It's frustrating. Okay. Just one day he just said he's leaving. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they can't maintain a healthy relationship. They can't. It wouldn't matter what I would say. His voice would raise and just say, Shannon, I had no voice. Right. Yeah. The shutting you down. They all have different ways of doing that, but the shutdown is definitely part of the narcissistic abuse pattern. I had the hand put over my mouth, like as if I'm not allowed to speak and I have no voice, literally. So what do you do, right? Nick says, I tried showing recordings, text messages, videos to her. We need to get some help. She somehow blame shift and put like a pro, and I'll end up saying sorry. That's what happens. That's the cycle, Nick. They can't see, they cannot accept, and they cannot own anything that when it comes to the way they are abusive. I feel like it's almost like if we know, then they can't get away with it. So if they admit they know, then they can't get away with it anymore. And so therefore they can't admit they know because they need it. They can't function in any other way. They won't grow their emotional selves up enough to be healthy for another person. Let's see. Violet is saying a lot of covert men seem to have strange relationships with their family members, especially their moms, weird boundaries and emotional incest. Some do. I've also seen a total disconnect from the parents, where they don't have a whole lot of emotional connection to the parents. So sitting here responding exactly over and over. It's hard. I'm trying to give concrete examples and I'm not able to formulate them right now because it's difficult to talk about, like I keep saying. They repeat other people's stories, podcasts or movies, what happened at work, but no real conversation. They need you to inject the ideas into conversation. They need you to inject the emotion into the relationship. They need you to inject the impetus to keep it together. And we get tired. It's crazy. If he wasn't a covert narc, we would be so perfect together. Isn't that the most okay, here's the thing, Shannon. Don't try to let me let that blurry go away. There we go. Try to see it a little differently. Let me give you suggestions on ways to see that differently. He is a covert narcissist, period. When you add, we would be so perfect together, there is an ounce of hope. And there is that grief that is very difficult to let go of. It's part of the trauma bonding. The reason you would be so perfect together is they are good at grooming. They are good at mirroring, and they are good at creating the illusion of connection. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you experienced someone genuinely kind to you and just like genuinely hanging out with you, not even romantically, just if you experience something different in your life, you'll understand this more. And when you have that opportunity, you will understand it differently. But the reason they seem so perfect for you, I mean, there may be aspects of the dynamic between you, and there may be aspects of who you are as people that sure you could get along. I mean, they're not one thing. They're not just, especially the covert, they're not just this one thing. They present as a whole lot of things. They're really good at presenting the way they want to present, to be seen, so that they fit in wherever they are. Does that make sense? That's why when you say that you'd be perfect together if it weren't for this, think about it how an altruistic covert narcissist will go out and like say be a, I don't know, someone that, I don't know, let's pick anything in the world where they're do-gooders, someone someone in the church, someone in, that it should be in a position of helping people. Okay. Or life-saving position, that type of thing, people who go out and do first aid or whatever to help other people or volunteer, they do things that are just like so service oriented. You think they must have compassion and empathy. Think about how the world sees them. That's a mask. When they go home, they're gaslighting and projecting and manipulating their partner. So it's that same thing. People, it's what makes you in disbelief of the narcissism. Okay. So try to see that he is what he is. End of sentence. Doesn't matter whether he's good at putting on a mask to make it look as if you fit together. And it doesn't matter if he's mirroring your good traits right back at you. And that's the other thing. They mirror your good traits right back at you. So what you really are seeing is when you say we'd be perfect together is a piece of yourself. And that's what a narcissist does, is they take on personality traits from other people and they mirror it back. And that's how they blend in order to manipulate, in order to create the illusion of what life is. Okay. Yeah, we could talk and talk and talk until that's it. And basically that talk and talk and talk is him feeding and getting supply off of you. It's not the same as being with someone who wants to see you and wants to be with you and actually cares about what you're talking about. I mean, you may care about it, but it's not the same. It's not trying to connect with you. It's trying to feed off the talking. Does that make sense? It's getting something from you. It's really all a choice. They choose to be this way. Well, yes, there's object consistency disordered as a child, other forms of neglect. A choice being with someone with no empathy, I feel like choice is not really, they could choose, sure. But when they don't have empathy, what is there to choose? There's only self. There's only self-preservation. And without empathy for other human beings, without like true empathy, there cannot really truly be choice for them. Does that make sense? They could choose to see how they operate in the world. And I think they could choose to function differently and accept what they are. However, we know that isn't the case. So I don't know that it's choice. I don't think it is. I think it is how they are. End of sentence. That's it. There's nothing more to it. Okay. Shannon, I'm only good. Let's see. I didn't make him feel comfortable in my house because I wouldn't let him move his couch, hang art, etc. But I felt like he had one foot out the door the whole time. They do keep one foot out the door. Your feelings that you keep expressing are the things that, Shannon, you can learn to listen to in your life, because that's where you keep yourself safe from now on. If you felt the one foot out the door, it was there. You trust it. They break our ability to trust ourselves through all of this stuff that we're talking about. When you give someone a bunch of good and then you take it away by interjecting bad, you teach that person that they can't trust themselves, because through the good, you trust the situation. Then comes the bad. So then you're like, what happened? It's me, right? Because you want the good again, right? And so you're being taught you can't trust yourself. Is that making any sense? And so as you are going through this and seeing all of these insights that you did have, Shannon, you can start to learn that you can trust yourself again. They put you in a constant state of fight or flight. They sure do. And freeze and fawn. Fawning is in my opinion, the people who deal with covert narcissists, the fawn reaction is a strong one. And it's because they need us to beg them back, right? My guts were tight most of the time. You see here, Shannon, you're getting a really good roadmap of your own intuition. Go back and read what you're writing here. I think it's important to see that, because you're describing your intuition and what you felt. And those are the things that when you feel around people, you need to see as red flags. Okay. He helped me with the bill after I left. Super nice. But then shames me and tells others I used him. Exactly. Being super nice, um, giving you money for something that you needed without being asked, usually just doing the right thing, doing the kind thing, and then shames you for it later, but usually covertly with subtle digs, right? Or maybe even directly, but often it's a covert, or it's a you don't appreciate me the second you say something. Okay, so maybe they do something nice for you, and you have a great time and you're having a good day and they did all this nice stuff for you, and then they're doing something that is maybe they are shutting down and they're avoiding you or something, and you call them on it even nicely, and then they say you're not appreciative of all the nice things they did. That's a subtle abuse. That's a subtle, covert, toxic way to treat someone. And it's exactly what you're talking about on a more subtle level, right? I'm a freezer for sure. Are you freeze? Okay. I have big intuition. Every time I ignore it, I swear it gets me in the butt. That's right. And that is a place you can learn to get really strong with, Shannon, and have your life be a lot better. They are soulless entities. That's right. Do they feed off fear, envy, hate, and jealousy and anger? They feed off every emotion. They feed off anything that they can get out of you. So yeah, they would feed off of that. They may say they hate drama, but they create enough of it to prove that is not true, right? Mine was never jealous. Interesting. Well, that would show a sign of weakness, right? Sometimes they don't want to show, they choose which emotions oftentimes they want you to see. Because what can happen is they may be never jealous with you and then go be jealous with the next supply. So depending on where your buttons are. Mine only compliments me in front of others. Okay, that's another way. In front of others, it makes him look good. See, that's another way that they take the good and they twist it with the bad. Because how can you say you never compliment me? How can you say that? How can you have an argument or a discussion? Not even an argument. How can you have a discussion and say, you know what, I feel sad you never compliment me, ever. Only in front of others. Well, what do you mean only in front of others? That's the best time. That's me showing you in front of other people. See what I'm saying? It's a mixture of taking something that should be positive in a relationship and throwing something really toxic into it, so that then you not only feel sad about the thing they did, but then you can't even have a discussion about why it's painful. All right. So many gray areas, but I think you've convinced me that he's one for a narc. I don't know. I can't I can't label anyone or diagnose anyone. I'm just calling the behaviors for what I see, right? I do think he was jealous of me, jealous of you. That's interesting, but not jealous of other people around you. Interesting. Well, that makes sense too, because they need to control and own, right? They need to be the ones that dictate everything. So, Shannon, as you break the trauma bonds, all the abuse becomes more clear. Trust your gut. Absolutely. Your intuition is strong, and you're describing it really well. You're describing it in all the parts of yourself, not just what you feel, but what your body's saying and what your emotions are saying, and how like your resistance to things. You're describing it really well. So I know it wasn't right. None of it. It's okay. Any other questions, you guys, before I need to head out today, or anything you want to talk about? I will keep going with that. I think I'm at my, I don't know what else to say about covert narcissism right this moment, unless I have a cue here. So, no, I'm glad you talked a lot, Shannon. It's good. It was useful. And I think it'll help other people as they're watching this later on, or people who are watching with us, because it's always helpful to have the interactive back and forth here. So what are tendrils? Tendrils are like creepy feelers that, reach out and wrap around things. Who has a tendril? Like an octopus, or things like that. Little insects might have tendrils, but they, I picture like that they intertwine all of this toxicity into things that should be positive in a relationship. That's what I'm getting at here. Does that make sense? It was great. They were okay. Shannon, we are here to listen and help. Excellent. That's exactly what we're here for. Anything else, you guys, you want to talk about, say, or any ideas, anything you want for a video for next time? Also, let me know. I was healed, but let him back in my life. Never again. Sometimes it takes a lot of education. That's why we do these videos. That's why we're here. That's why there's, coaching. That's why there's groups. That's why all of it. So keep yourself safe and just keep away, because unless you know what it is, you think someone changed. And when they come back to you with, like, he came back at a time when you needed him. Number one, when you're vulnerable, that's when they're going to slip in. So understand that when you're in a vulnerable state, that's when toxic people slip in. It's not only toxic people that slip in, but that's the most common time for them to get into your life, is when you're in a vulnerable state, when you have need. They love, especially covert narcissists, love to be the hero. When they leave you, they go off and be the hero to someone else. A lot of them do. They go off and be, all the things that you needed them to be in the relationship, they go do it elsewhere. They know what's needed of them. They know what's expected. They know what it takes. They just go off and do it elsewhere because it gets a different supply. It lets them be the hero without anything jading that. There's nothing more pure for them than the adoration and praise of someone new, because that person doesn't know anything negative about them. I mean, I think if you can think about it, like, I think we can all kind of relate to that a little bit. Like when someone you don't know and you just start becoming friends gives you a compliment and it feels genuine, not a creepy one, but they notice something about you that's great. It has a charge. For a lot of us, we get really uncomfortable with it. For them, they feed off of it. Does that make sense? Ugh. No more supply from me. Good. Cut off forever. Excellent. And all of any others, don't let them in. Nick says it seems like she has love for her parents, but that's only because they supply for now, or the mother's been one who taught for how to be a narcissist. So I just did a video on what it is, how a narcissist loves. With parents, it can be that they are trying, if the parent was also a narcissist, they're trying to please the other narcissist. It's not necessarily the same kind of thing as loving. They can seem like they love. There can be elements that are loving of how they treat people but it's the fact that it all comes back to a self-serving reason is what makes it so toxic. Does that make sense? Like, that's the part that's not right. It's not loving. It's not love. Shannon, it reminds us all we are so intuitive and right about our own situations, isn't it? Yeah, I loved hearing, Shannon, I really loved hearing your intuition like so openly like that. That was great. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Anything for next time that you would like? If you have any suggestions or if you have any questions, you can always find me. You can email coachlise@gmail.com. That's Lise, that's how I spelled my name. Or you can find me on Facebook. You can find me here. You can leave comments in any video and I will reply. And anything that you want to talk about or you want talked about, go ahead and leave it and I will try to get to it. I can't promise everything. And sometimes topics are, I have to do some research, so take some time, but otherwise I'm happy to help. Yes, always self-serving. They never actually care about you. That's right. They care about how you see them and they care about what they get back from you. And their care for you is tied to that. It's an ownership. It's not freely given reciprocal care because you see one another. Does that make sense? Like truly seeing one another, they can't. They can only see what they want to take. So, okay. How exit for next class? Okay. Over 30 days, once again, I'm able to go no contact. Excellent. It is pitiful, isn't it, Violet? It's sad, really. But it is what it is. And they are what they are. And I'm not going to use my empathy to waste it on people who aren't able to reciprocate it. That's the point, right? I can say it's sad, but that's the way it is. All right. We just need to make ourselves better. We sure do. And be around people who bring you up, not bring you down, right? Or be by yourself and bring yourself up. That's all good too. You're welcome, Crystal. So people like this cannot touch us. Exactly. It's exactly it. So they can't touch you. So they can't get in. And I think a lot of it for us who are intuitive, Shannon, is seeing it. Well, and everyone. I keep saying Shannon because I think it's the bright orange of your little icon. It makes me look at it. But we have to realize that we need to trust our intuitions and trust what we're seeing, learn the red flags, and learn to be discerning so that we can keep them out. So there you go. Exposure. What do you mean exposure, Nick? Oh, as a topic? I did that Tuesday. I did a bit on it. Toxic upbringing. That's a good one too. Why do they fear exposure? Is that what you're asking? It typoed there, so I can't see. They fear exposure because if someone says to you, Nick, you keep showing up late and that upsets me. You're forced in that moment to either deny it, to fight, like about why you're late, or to just accept it and own it, right? They can't own it. So they can't own the stuff they do, because if they do, it proves that they're being manipulative. It proves that they're not, it's not the person that they want you to see that they are. They don't want to be seen for who they are. They are very deeply unable to have any real self-awareness. Their self-awareness stops at seeing the action. It doesn't go deep enough to see the belief and the reasons behind the action. If you ever are in a group coaching with me, what we talk about all the time, like literally all the time, in every group, is our beliefs behind our actions, our beliefs behind why we are, our beliefs behind what's happened, behind everything in our life in order to make a change in our life. My feeling is you can't make change until you get to the belief. You can say, I have trouble expressing my emotions. Like a narcissist might do that, or anyone might do that. I have trouble, but to understand why, unless you understand why and the belief behind it, you don't make much change. You just sit and spin your wheels about the thing that you actually do. So it's a narcissistic person won't go that deep. They won't go to the level of what is my belief, and allowing that belief to change. Like they may get to where they see the belief. Oh yeah, I believe that. But to allow change is like saying I'm not perfect. And of course they are. Right? All right. I'm glad you did this topic. It is so hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Thank you. You're welcome. I don't know that I think I need to do more on it, because that was really hard I didn't have a whole lot of concrete examples to go on. It's really, to me, difficult to talk about, but I don't know. Hopefully that was good. Let's see. Maybe eventually if we stop feeding them, they will die out or evolve. I hope so. I don't know. I think honestly, the key is in catching the children when they're young and teaching empathy to those who have limited empathy, so that if they have trauma in their life, or if they have pampering to the point of indulgence, which our society does, right? Then they are at least being shown and taught empathy, so they learn skills for how to treat people. What do they fear? Exposure. Yeah, they fear exposure. That'll make them rage. They fear seeing themselves. Yeah. He did say he knew he was difficult to live with. Oh, they'll tell you. They'll tell you things like that. I was told I'm not good in relationship. Yeah, that proved to be true, right? But when they say it, it's at a time when you are so you're probably in the middle of the trauma bonding cycle where you are being love bombed enough to where the love bombing, the good stuff's overriding the bad. And so when they say something like that, especially early enough on, like within the first few years, it's you don't believe it. You believe what you hear is someone's insecurity. And as an empathic person, and especially an intuitive one, you don't want to push on someone's insecurity. You want them to allow them to bring it forth and be safe to say it, right? But if you look back, there'll be other red flags you could have seen too, maybe, and then that's when you piece it together, right? Because he took ownership, it throws me off. They take ownership of certain aspects. What they don't take ownership of is the actions around the being difficult to live with. So, for instance, I'm difficult in relationship. I'm difficult to live with. Okay, that's ownership of the action. That's ownership of the bigger picture. However, if you say you really hurt me when you wouldn't listen to anything I said, and you negate everything I say, and you twist it around so that I don't even know what I'm upset about anymore. And that really upsets me because I'm pretty articulate and I know how to speak to people. And I usually communicate really well and I don't understand what's happening. And you're going into your freak out of after gaslighting. They won't own that, but that is being difficult to live with. Right. So they'll own the bigger picture because that's what I'm talking about. Like talking around the relationship, not talking about the relationship. Someone who speaks deeply about their relationship can dig into those little pieces of what's working and what's not working. It's sort of like a narcissist will say, I tried so hard, I did everything I could. And you cannot find one concrete thing that they actually tried, except for maybe moving one piece here to over here and one piece there to over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did these things, but those aren't the things that were needed. What was needed was a deep interchange, right? Or even a surface interchange, a little change. You need something. Or, they'll say, I'm working on it. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. How are you working on it? What are you doing? What is there's no true accountability to the way that they're supposedly trying to make things better. And therefore they're actually not. Is that making sense? Mine said he wasn't able to connect with people emotionally like I could, and that he had a darkness inside of him. In fact, I think I heard that too. I think that's, yeah. Chestina, when trauma bond is broke, you can see the real them and how insecure they are with themselves. That's right. Does that make sense about oh yeah, you said, I see. Okay. Why they have low energy. I don't understand the question. Okay. Anything else, you guys, before we head out? Oh, we're hitting the hour. We're going to low energy for sure. Loves napping. Yeah. They drain your energy too. And then they don't have any of their own. So, all of that. Okay, guys. All right. I hope that helped a bit. If you enjoyed this program and you would like to see more live streams, hit subscribe so that you get the notifications, hit the like button, the thumbs, and yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm reading over here at the same time. Yours was hyperactive. Okay. So guys, take care. And I wish you well with your healing as always. And I will see you next time. Goodbye. There we go.